What makes an exercise a good exercise for gaining muscle? Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not following or subscribed, please do so, and if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Now, you guys will notice, unless I am specifically doing speed strength or something for conditioning or something else, or specific max effort lifts, all of my exercises that I do are geared towards gaining muscle, right? So when I'm not running conjugate, or you look at a program like I'm doing right now, which is where all this footage is coming from, everything is built to gain muscle. Notice everything I do is 5+ reps. Everything is relatively simple exercises. And what you'll see demonstrated in this video throughout here are examples of what we mean. And I'm not saying isolation doesn't have its place. I do tons of isolation, right? I'm big on laterals, rear delts, curls, calf raises. But just examples through this video, you're going to see squats, you're going to see deadlifts, bench press, you're going to see weighted pull-ups, you're going to see barbell pullovers. Okay, these are easy examples. So what are we looking for an exercise to be effective for gaining muscle? Okay, what are we looking for? We're looking for simplicity to some extent, right? We need an exercise that is not extremely complicated to learn. Yes, I understand the back squat and the bench press are on the most complicated end of these basic movements, right? So these represent the most extreme. They actually are very complicated in a lot of ways. They do require certain coordination. Deadlift is relatively uncomplicated once you learn it. I can teach someone a perfect deadlift in 60 seconds. They're ready to compete. They're ready to go to powerlifting meets as soon as they get stronger. Perfect technique. I can teach you in a minute. That's an easy exercise, right? It's not much more complicated than a curl, if you know how to set up. It really is just a setup. But that aside, these others, yeah, they're more complicated, but what are we looking for? We're looking for exercises that are easy to learn. If you're having to spend for your rep work, if you're doing a 5 to 10 rep set on an exercise, or a 5 to 12, and you have to stand there and concentrate on 3 different cues for the form, it's a problem. Okay, simplicity to learn. Okay, simplicity to learn. All right, that's big on the list, number one. Number two, does the exercise take the target muscles through a sufficient range of motion? Now, again, people will argue that the deadlift might be on the extreme end of that. So that's a perfect example. Okay, that's why some of us do deficit deadlifts. I like to do deep deficits sometimes, specifically for that reason, right? Those deeper deficits will sometimes give us a little more range of motion. That is an example of what we're talking about. Like the deadlift takes a lot of those muscles, the glutes and other stuff through an effective range of motion, but it's near the ends of saying, hey, this is short of a range of motion as you want. So use that as a perfect example of about as extreme as you want to go. Everything else, you need to be taking the muscle through a reasonable range of motion. The muscle or muscles that you are trying to work. And we'll sometimes on the deadlift give it a little pass because so many muscles are used. And we use very large amounts of weight, and studies on the deadlift have shown it produces extremely robust hypertrophy. Okay, so again, this is not a case of hypothetical. People can argue all they want. Squats and deadlifts absolutely produce profound muscle in the lab when studied in real human beings, not people's theories. So that's a perfect example. You'll see the lab, they make you big. Okay, what else are we looking for? Ease of loading. All right, you have to have a way to correctly load the exercise. If you want to gain muscle, what are we looking for? We need the ability to progressively overload it, and that doesn't mean just reps. This is why people argue, well, you could do a push-up, you could start having people add plates to your backs, you could add this, you can add that. There's an ease of loading problem. So again, an example of why for muscle building purposes, like if your goal is to gain muscle and you have access to all these tools, it's why, say, a push-up doesn't make as much sense as a bench press or a weighted dip. Okay? Why? Well, number one, it's even harder. You have to have other special equipment to even get the range of motion on it, for one. Like you've got to be doing all dumbbells or other bars. Getting the hands in position, but the big issue, ease of loading. It's really hard to load. Okay? Same thing, people are over here trying to do whatever, some sort of donkey kickback or whatever with bands or anything with these, hip circles and stuff. You're not able to easily load this. Like, in order for an exercise to be a really good choice, a good choice for gaining muscle, you need to be able to load it easily in small increments. Like, you need to be looking at it and going, can I add 2.5 or 5 pounds to this exercise consistently? Like, do I have a way to add 2.5, or 5 week after week? Not your strength going up, but your ability to load that movement. Progressive overload is the driver of hypertrophy. And it can't just be, well, I'm just going to do more and more reps. Okay, so this is problematic eventually. Whereas, so something like a push-up, just a wide variety of movements that people do. You can't load it easily. Can you load it with weights? Okay. And that's a problem for some stuff. Again, this is why you're going to have limited results. Or people are like, well, I'll just go to this one arm calisthenics. That is a massive jump, and now you've changed the form. It's a different exercise. Now you're dealing with balance issues. Now you're dealing with other problems. Same thing, so people are like, well, you just go from whatever to a one arm pull. Well, no. Weighted pull up, a weighted chin up. You add weight. We have weight belts. We have ways to add weights. You can do it with backpacks. Weight belts are the most common. Hey, you have to have the ability to load it correctly. And you have to have a way to progressively overload it easily. And I'm not saying things that can't build muscle. What we're talking about is being a good exercise, right? It needs to be a good exercise. And I would say the next one on top of that behind it is going to be, how much balancing do we have to do? About the limit of what you're going to want to do is going to be a back squat or a split squat. Okay, and a split squat for some people is too much. This is why I like a Bulgarian split squat, but not everyone even has the balance to do that. If you were struggling to coordinate the exercise in place of loading it, it is not a good exercise for you for building muscle. And some stabilization is good. Some stabilization is good, but if it's at the ease of loading, it's a problem. I mean, that's also a perfect example of why I don't ever use dumbbell presses as a primary for any of my lifters. We'll use a barbell. And then as a secondary lift, once we're fatigued and we can justify the slightly lighter weight, because you're having to balance the two dumbbells, get them in position, it makes a lot more sense. And plenty of top bodybuilders have found this to be the case too. Ronnie Coleman, Arnold, so on. They'll do a barbell bench and they'll do the dumbbells after. So again, knowing the place where to put it too. But definitely if you're fighting with balance, a pistol squat, something on a Bosu ball, anything to where your balance is potentially limiting the loading is not a good exercise for gaining muscle, because progressive overload is king. All right, so there's how we would define a good exercise for gaining muscle.